the position of the units and the augments and the bonding and all of that other good stuff, and it just runs the battle for you. Anything in Illuvium Arena will use that engine. There's not going to be like two versions of it or anything like that. The only thing that we then have to do is do the game modes, and as much as it might sound like making a whole game mode like Ascendant is going to be like a huge body of work, the coding to do that is actually fairly quick, because it's mainly about generating rules and, when can you do a thing and stuff like that. It's not about the underlying, attacks of the characters and all of that sort of stuff. So we're very, very far into the work of Arena, and there's just going to be a lot of polish after that. But as we've always said, even once we go live with the public beta where there's NFTs involved, there are things that will be, absolutely needed to be polished. I've told the team in the overworld that for certain areas, it's perfectly acceptable to put literally just a single box that is just a cube and just say, building goes here and stuff like that, because that's not the stuff that we want to test in this in these first things. It's more about the underlying fun of the game. So if you come up against an alluvial that looks a little bit more like Whamfur than Ramfire, then sorry, that's just because it hasn't got all of its VFX in yet, or it's a placeholder or something like that. So there'll definitely be some stuff that makes it very clear that it's still a beta, but I'm pretty excited. I can't give you an exact date, but since I've been back, I've been trying to go through with the team and work out exactly where we're at all of the different pieces, and it's pretty good. So yeah, you got.
Have you guys started on the rule sets for the PvP for Ascendant and things?
Oh yeah, it's complete, but turning that into the actual in-game engine rules does take a little bit of time. To put it in perspective, the first set of rules that we did for the survival mode, it took one programmer 2 weeks to get to build survival mode, right? Now, that has nothing to do with, making sure that characters attack or that it's synchronized with the server and stuff like that, but just to get a locally played version of that game where you can place down units. It's really just, when are you allowed to place down a unit? What costs do things have? When is it your opponent's turn? All of that from like a rules perspective is all designed. It's I still think that there needs to be a bit of work on those designs, but it's a good first pass. It's mostly what Ben has done on it, and we'll see how it goes. We tend to disagree on some things and agree on some others, but the easiest way to deal with it is to just let you guys play a version, which will be super fun, and then we'll go with it. But internally, within a couple of weeks, we'll be playing a version of Ascendant that will be let's just call it a very jank-ass, version of it, just so that we can test some of those rules. It won't be the game engine doing the rules for us. It will be us with sort of like an open environment where we can do whatever the hell we want, and we get on a call with each other and we say, well, it is your turn now, sir, and I will therefore not place anything down, like a gentleman's agreement rather than letting the game actually force it. But it should be good. I mean, this is definitely the thing that I'm the most excited about is Ascendant mode, because I love playing against people. And I really like the idea of 1 versus 1, because at the end of the day, if you win, you were just better,
Yeah, see, I've seen that little flow diagram you put out, or at least the Illuvium team put out ages ago, kind of explaining the PvP and 1v1 and things. And I think there's still a decent amount of confusion circling around, like how it exactly works and things like that. And obviously, I want to get my hands on making as much content about explaining the game to people. I mean, I'm most excited for PvP as well, coming from Pokemon background, right? Do you think?
Well, I'm not sure that follows.
Pokemon primarily 1v1.
I mean, had you said StarCraft or chess or Premier League, then I'd understand that. I'm not exactly sure that Pokemon is the pinnacle of PvP, but I'm only joking.
1v1 PvP. There's a lot of it feels a lot like Pokemon sometimes, but I did play a lot of StarCraft too, actually. Anyway,
well, there we go.
I was wondering if we could get a bit of a detailed breakdown on the rules, not like the code or anything, but or I could send you some DMs and things and try and really get my head around it so I can help explain it to others and things like that.
Not until we do our testing internally.
Okay. Yeah, no, sure.
So the point is that what you guys saw was just like a really early first pass. I'm not suggesting that it's changed a lot since then, but it might have been a little bit confusing because it wasn't really meant to be digested externally for people without context. So in general, we'll definitely make it available for you guys what the rules are once we've got them in a format that is digestible by you guys. And that won't be until we've gone through and done a few little, bits and pieces, because we're doing the final polish on all of the combat engine stuff, things like what are the mastery points cost of the augments and, when can you do things, what are the powers, et cetera, once we get that locked away, then the next step for Ben and I is to start to iterate on what that ascendant mode will exactly look like. And it could be that I've got some really great idea that turns out to be a really terrible idea, and we start playing and we go, well, that was crap, and we edit it. But once we get a really good understanding of that, then it'll go out. So it won't be immediately, but it's not going to be something that we're trying to hide from you for whatever reason. But as with anything, I mean, you guys saw what, or at least what survival mode is now. The second you start playing it with all sorts of different things that are in the game, there's augments, there's bonding, there's interest in between the rounds. At the moment, there's no health, but that'll go in as a patch really, really quickly after, where losing a single round doesn't kill you. It just takes away some of your health, and depending on how badly you got beaten, you'll lose more health. That's something to go in straight after. There's also, some new mechanics in there, such as charm and flee. There's plane changes. It's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of differences in the way that we connect you through to the servers and stuff like that. So it will be a big change, and you guys will have to play it. So if someone says, I'm the best in the world at survival mode, well, not after PB2,
Hey, Aaron, just because there's some mods here and stuff, do you want to just clarify that, what the PB2 overworld, all the differences, ascendant, all that is? I know you.
I can do my best.
Yeah, but
I mean, if you're talking about what does it mean? So originally there was just PB2, and in that PB2 it was meant to be that you could play the better version of survival mode, plus you could also play the Crimson Waste map by itself, right? So you wouldn't actually be able to walk around in Sanctum Mesa. You would just be able to be in Crimson Waste and get a feel for the movements, get a feel for how the collection is done, and play the battles and stuff like that. When we saw that there was a little bit of a delay, it became necessary to move some people onto Arena, which means that now we're sort of splitting it up into Arena PB2, which is the thing that's coming first, which is the upgrades on Arena, specifically getting the combat engine to be really, really good so that we can very quickly after that do Ascendant and then Leviathan modes. They'll come a lot quicker than all of the other stuff because all of the scaffolding is in place. But after Arena PB2 comes the Overworld PB2, and that will now be Crimson Waste plus a very, very cut down version of the Sanctum Mesa environment as well. So you'll be able to run around in there, you'll be able to do fusion and, you know, take stuff from the overworld. So originally it was just you would get stuff in the overworld and that was it. Now you'll be able to at least take a little look at what the stuff becomes. Obviously the recipes and stuff like that are going to change over time. So it's meant just sort of to give you a rough idea of what it is. In fact, the fusion is not even going to be the final, like all of the art assets won't be there for that. So it's basically just you can run around in Sanctum Mesa, do a couple of basic things. And like I said to the guys, to get us to our internal deadline, if they can't get an art asset in place, they'll just put a giant pink circle or cube in there and just say stuff goes here. And if anyone says, oh, there's a giant pink cube, well, too bad for you, right? That's part of it being a beta. Obviously it'll get updated pretty quickly after that. The art team work really, really fast. You guys can see how quickly they've been able to flesh out a lot of the other regions. We're literally on the last region now doing blockouts. So all 7 regions plus Sanctum Mesa are at some level of playability inside of the game. So they'll come after that. Obviously, there's going to be a fair amount of time to get them right, because technically the game that we're building them for now is not the game that it'll eventually be. Eventually, the plan is to make it much more of a sort of a dauntless, open world fighting style game, like Monster Hunter, stuff like that. At that point, we'll take away encounter mode and just let people play and battle things real time. But for the purpose of, getting a full-on combat system in place, as well as getting the auto battler and all of the other stuff that we do, it was just never feasible to do that. So the original plan was we make an auto battler and we leverage that by allowing you to do auto battles in the overworld through, this encounter mode. And so it'll be fun, but eventually that will. I mean, some people have said that they want to keep the ability to do auto battles in the overworld. I think I disagree on that. I don't think that we'll do that. I think we'll just replace that with the open world battle. But I actually had some good conversations with the lead from the overworld team today about exactly what that battling will look like. And also looking through all of the new animations, which you guys haven't seen, and it's just night and day. They've done such a good job of getting the movement of the character to be just phenomenal. There's a few extra little things that we want to put in to make the environment a little bit more interactable by the character. So not interactive. We're not making a voxel-based game where you can blow up a mountain and stuff like that. At least not yet. I'm sure if we give Grant the opportunity, he'll be keen on having some sort of destructions. But, the little things that you guys have seen, like the plants that react and have momentum-based collisions and stuff like that. Plants are going to be a big part of our world. They're a decent part of the overall feel of what the world is. So, yeah, it should be... It should be really good. Those are 2 separate things. So you'll get Arena PB2, and then you'll get Overworld PB2. The only reason why we're not calling it PB1 for Overworld is just because we think that would be slightly more confusing, because people would say, but you can't release PB1, you already released PB1. So if there's a PB3, it might have, Illuvium 0 PB3 on it or something like that down the road or whatever. But for now, it is an update to Arena, an update to your first chance to play in the overworld in a limited sense, and then we'll just work our butts off to flesh out those features so that it gets to where we want to be by the time we release the public beta. And then from there, we'll just keep on updating it, right? The more stuff you guys buy, the more you guys play it, the more we'll update it and get it cooler and cooler, and you'll see that we are really committed to making things better over time, right? Not everyone has a good idea, but we will listen to all of the ideas.
So
Cool.
exciting.
Thank you, Aaron.
I've always been
Quintuple A, and it's got to be exactly perfect. And I mean, some of the work that we've done has been like, it's just really, really time consuming work where I've suggested, hey, let's do this in a little bit of a crappy way that's really quick. And they've gone, no, not crappy ways, only good ways. And so in the end, it'll look really good. But I like the idea of there being pink boxes, and when you go into the menu, it's like menu here and stuff like that. But at least we had a good response to the first beta, and with this second one, I think it'll also be a good response. And I think that might allow us to lighten up a little bit and just be like, hey, let's just release this thing to show people that it's going to be there, and it's just totally a placeholder, and that should be fine. Because honestly, if in any beta that I've been in, when I see stuff that is not fully done, I always find it to be cool. I feel like I'm getting in early, etc., etc., etc. And I mean, I guess there's the other people who are like, give me the exact game that's going to be released and let me play it for 3 months so that I'm better than everyone else, so that by the time it gets released, I'm the best in the world. And it's like, well, that's cool, but that is definitely not the way that I look at it.
And it's like it builds community and connection as well, because we're all going to be sort of enjoying this thing together, and we'll remember that like in the future. And like especially I've been getting help to play the game through Caveman and other people, which has been amazing. And it's that thing as well. Like I can see how bringing it out now in the versions you're doing, we can play with each other, and you can learn and teach. And I just see it as being a brilliant thing, and it will create a really strong, solid group of people that will just stay and really support the project because they're connected to it. It's like you become like part of the project instead of just being a bystander that's sort of just picking the game up kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know if that explains what I mean, but
Yep. I think a lot of people feel the same way.
it feels
So,
like you're kind of part of the journey. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, do you are you still coming out with the dev blog this month, or I don't know if you ever finished that?
Yeah, I want to try. I mean, there's still a lot that I have to catch up to internally before I could write it well. Like if I started writing it today, normally I can
Like I've spoken too much.
I could get it to a point of, I don't know, maybe 80% completion in about 40 minutes. It usually takes me to write it. But that's because I just write what I know in my head. For now, I would have to literally go back and, like quiz the team. I mean, they usually give me some updates on some major things that have been done, but I have to contextualize them, and I just don't have the context at the moment. So it'll take me a little bit of time, but we'll see. It won't be done definitely until I get back to Australia, which is Wednesday next week. That's when I land, and then however long it takes me to do it after that. So if it is a little bit slow, I apologize. It's not been my plan to be away for nearly a month, but I guess sometimes that's the way that it is.
Yeah. No, I was I figured it was going to be a little bit of time, but I figure you just kind of gave us the audio version just now, kind of. So that's good either way for everyone here.
There's way more important things for me. Like one one issue that we've had in the beta is there is I don't know how much people care about the underlying tech. I think most people prefer to look at the art and stuff like that. But one of the problems with the underlying tech was an issue with the design that I made for the engine, which was that there is this type of deployment. I guess eventually you guys will see all of these things because we eventually want people to be able to submit units to the game, and because it's all data driven, you'll see it anyway. But the way that it works internally is the game is just literally about sending packages to other people on the battlefield, right? And the way that you send packages is called your deployment method. And there's things like zones, beams, projectiles, and there's one which we use a lot. It's basically for all melee attacks and for some other Omega abilities, which is direct. And the way that works is you just take the reference to that unit that you want to send something to, and you just automatically send it to them, like you're teleporting it onto them. Whereas with every single other one of the deployment methods, there's always a location that's built around it. And so we didn't add in enough contingency around how the character would target someone. And the other day this is actually just before I got sick, and it was gonna be in PB2, but it won't be now, but it'll get done straight after. I just thought about it for a second. I was like, well, direct is the only one that references a unit. Is there a way that I could do this so that direct wasn't exactly direct? And there is. And the answer is to just send it to the location that the unit is standing on. And if it happens to be there, then let it apply it, almost like it's a mini zone, like a 1 hex zone. And that allowed us to, I thought about it and I was like, actually that solves a heap of problems, because sometimes we have a character go untargetable, but it really should take damage, you know. And the way that I sort of explain it is, imagine that I throw a frisbee at you, and then you're a magician, so you go away in a puff of smoke, but really you're just a puff of smoke and you're just standing behind there like an idiot, but you're just untargetable, right? So if someone new wants to send another projectile or a zone or whatever, they don't look at you because you're just a puff of smoke, so they ignore you. But that frisbee, it's still on its way, and it should keep going to where it was going to go. And when it gets there, it should smack you in the head, right? And you should go, ow, right? So at the moment, we don't have that. It sort of disappears because of the way that it was working. And that was my fault. So by changing the direct deployment module to be location-based, it allows us to solve all of those bugs that you see where a character goes to do its ability and then at the last second it just goes, I don't know, and it just can't, because instead it will just deploy it to the location that it last knew was a good location. And that means that it could be the case that a character, you know, like for example, Ramfire goes up into the sky, it's got a target, it goes to send down its ring of fire, and the character moves out of the way. That's fine. That's perfectly the way that the world would work, but it won't be the case where it gets up into the sky and then it just goes, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here because there's no target, except in the very, very odd situation where everything is untargetable on the screen before it goes to do its ability. But in that case, it just won't go up into the air. It'll just stand around going, what's going on, wait for a target to become targetable, and then it will do its ability. So it'll look a lot smoother. And it actually allows us to do even one more thing fairly easy, which is we're going to build in we have a timing window for all of the attacks, which is the window goes from activation, which is where the character decides to do an ability. And remember, a punch, anything is abilities in our game. So it decides to do the ability, and then there's the deployment, which is, you know, like maybe it swirls its hands around and then it goes kaboom. And, you know, that might take, you know, half a second or, you know, 800 milliseconds, and then it sends its projectile or whatever it's going to be. Inside of that window, we're going to break it into 2 parts. One part is a retargeting time, and the other part is sort of like the point of no return. And what that will allow us to do is, at the start of an ability, I think that I'm going to hit Bob with my fireball. So I look at Bob and I'm about ready to hit him with the fireball, but Bob goes untargetable before that point of no return. And instead, because I'm in that period, I rotate, I find a new target, and my fireball goes to a new target so that I don't waste it. If it happens after the point of no return, that point we sort of are going to define by each animation to say whether or not it would look good to retarget it. And if it doesn't look good to retarget it, that's that point of no return. And in those situations, I'm going to send my fireball out, and it's going to go to wherever you last were. And if you are still there, or if anyone is there, then it will hit them instead. So it could be a situation where you have a character like Monkia, which has this really, really long wind-up, aggressive, direct punch. And halfway through the punch, that person goes untargetable, maybe, or not even untargetable. It could be that they just dash or do something like that. And now there's no one in that spot where Monkey is going to punch, but someone else walks into that space, and then the punch comes, and even though it's considered direct, because it's going just to a location, that other unit that walks onto that space, it will just get the crap knocked out of it, you know? So it'll actually make it so much smoother and interactive, and it'll feel more real, because if someone moves out of the way, you'll start to see the unit move as it's doing the punch. So instead of punching directly forward from it, it might punch, you know, forward and to the left, and all of that will happen procedurally to make it feel really smooth. And at that point, I know that we're ahead of anything else that's on the market in the auto battle genre in terms of visual fidelity and feeling like a real battle. So I don't know if anyone found that to be interesting. Sweet. If that bored the crap out of everyone, then I won't talk about those things anymore. But it's these little tech pieces that I find the most interesting. You know, they're always little, you know, puzzles that I have to solve to make the game better. And in the end, you might not notice them too much overtly, but they'll be there, and they make the game, you know, be whatever it is.
I think
it is interesting.
Enjoy them for the most part, because, you know, it helps give context on just how complicated things can get. You know? Listen. Yeah, because I'm not a game designer personally, so it's interesting to me even still. That
yeah, so you can. The one thing that you could do is, if you wanted, you could go and verify that. Last I checked, Illuvium Arena has, I think it's 1,256 pages of documentation.
Yeah.
I mean, we do some ridiculous stuff like I mean, I'm just actually looking in the chat at Roger putting in one of the Illuvatars, and I mean, they're not easy either. Remember, like, for the difference between us and all other profile picture things is they tend to have one template character, whether it be, you know, a monkey or a lizard or, you know, a person or whatever it is. There's like an underlying silhouette, and then you paste cookie cutter things on top of that silhouette to make it look interesting, right? Like there's about 60,000 ETH lizards in this chat, and you can see that there's one underlying silhouette, which is the lizard sort of looking up and to the left. With ours, we have 206 silhouettes across set 1. And then there will be set 2 and set 3. And then we have to put all of the accessories on that. And in our case, those accessories need to be, in some cases, hand-drawn to fit that particular stature. So the picture that you see from Roger there that has the Vermilia with the glasses on, those glasses need to be mirrored, warped, adjusted, or just completely redrawn to fit on that character. And that means that every accessory has potentially 206 versions of itself in the first set. Now, we don't have 206 versions. I mean, technically we do, like at a asset sort of level, we have 206 versions of everything. Or, I mean, at the moment we don't, because we're only doing 25 in the first batch, but they all require their own version of it. And sometimes it's just a very minor tweak, like, move the position of it or something like that. But it's all manual work. And it means that when you get an Illuvitar, the fact that there's billions of combinations means that across the life of the project, the chance that someone will have exactly yours randomly is very low. It means that whatever it is that you've got is, in a sense, somewhat hand-drawn for you.
And it keeps it looking better, like you were saying, like other projects, like if it wouldn't look right if you just stuck the glasses on there in the same shape as like every other piece. It wouldn't look right, and it looks much better the way they do that.
Yeah, but it's really, really hard to do,
Yeah, I can't draw for shit, so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously the team's best artist, but I'm a bit busy, so I leave it to my right hand man Roger to sort of lead that, and he does a moderate job at it. Like if I stepped in and you guys saw the sort of stuff that I could do, you'd be even more overwhelmed with some type of an emotion. But yeah, no, those guys are ridiculously good. They are just phenomenal, and they get it done really fast. In fact, just recently, I added a bit of a change to Illuvitars while keeping inside of our internal deadlines, and it required a commitment from the concept art team to effectively go ham. And yeah, if anyone can do it, it'll be them.
Yep. Right. He doubted our work.
That's roughly what I did. Yes, I roughly doubled their load.
Did you see the PFP they made for me, Aaron?
I did see it. Yeah, it looked really cool.
Not bad.
The mullet is a beautiful touch.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, there's just a lot of things like that on the project where they take a lot of time. If we had done it just the way that I wanted to, it might be a little bit more efficient, but the project would definitely be more boring and stuff like that. But it takes all sorts of different people to sort of bring ideas to the table. I'm definitely more mechanical ideas than creative ideas, so it is what it is.
Who's the creative mind?
There's a lot of creative minds. Roger is fantastically creative. Grant is super, super creative. I'd say Kieran is probably somewhere between me and Grant. He's a bit more creative than me, but not at the level of the really super creative people that we have on the project. We have people that are in every area that bring ideas to the table all of the time, and it does add a lot to the project in terms of, you know, the workload to filter through all of that and come up with something coherent. And that would be what I would say is the most tricky thing about it, is because it's a crypto-based project, there are certain requirements that must be met. There are certain things that we have to do in specific ways. And then on top of that, because we're all remote, it means that we have to do things in certain efficient ways. So I reckon probably, you know, at least 25% of my time is trying to work out how we're going to squeeze, you know, a camel through the eye of a needle and make those things work. And you can see it in other projects because they just don't do it. They just go, nope, that can't be done. And they come up with something that's just a hell of a lot more simple. It's not a critique on them, because simple is sometimes, you know, really fun. Some of the best games that have ever been made have been, you know, largely simple. But if we want this to be something that is going to last for a long time and be built on the spine of these Illuvial NFTs that have a lot of utility across a whole bunch of different games that people can play, it does necessitate that we're going to really tailor everything that we do to maximize it as best we can. And it's really hard. I don't want that to sound like excuses for delays and stuff like that, but at no point has this project ever been easy, and at some points it's been just phenomenally difficult to solve some of the things, you know, like well, early on we had the arena had the recordings of the combat engine, and once we did the proof of concept to prove that we could do it, we've put it to the side because it's not necessary for release. But that was phenomenally difficult, right? To be able to do that. It effectively means that you've got to go back in time and use some particular rendering thing that is not meant to be used in a particular way and sort of force it to be used that way. So it was a lot of work for quite a few people to get it done. But now that that's sort of like at a proof of concept stage, I'm really happy with it, because it means that content creators will then be able to take a battle and put it onto YouTube, and it'll look like, you know, a professional video. I mean, you saw in our proof of concept version, which is what we used to show some of the battles in the original trailer, people were saying, nope, that's not gameplay. And literally for us, it was just play the game and then press a button to record it to video. So is it like someone with a mouse playing it right then? Not specifically, but it ends up being exactly the same thing, just at a much higher level of quality. I might need to go, guys. I appreciate all of the time letting me ramble on for a bit, but I probably, I guess, deviated from what it was supposed to be. So
no, I appreciate you coming on. Like, that's the whole point, is I want to get as many core contributors here every week to, you obviously probably have a lot of the higher detailed updates. Yeah, I'm trying to get more and more core contributors.
Oh yeah, they'll be able to give you some really cool stuff. Yeah. Just go easy on them, guys, and don't try to bamboozle them into giving leaks that they're not sure are leaks, right? Because someone will record the video and I'll go through and I'll find out the person who socially engineered one of our core contributors into giving a leak, and no beta access for that person. Okay. And with me threatening the community, I'll leave it at that.
Thanks again.
Nice touch.
Okay.
Nice touch.